Statistics have it that the common reason for the visa denials are insufficient documentation, misleading or inaccurate information, and perception of lack of strong ties to home country. Now, perhaps your visa has been denied before, or you're currently trying to prepare for a visa interview specifically for Russia, and you do not know how to remedy the situation that has gone on in the past, or how to prepare for the future. This video is where you get all the information you need about how to answer the questions that you'll be asked and the possible questions that you'll be asked. So that when you get there, they'll be so marveled that they will have no other choice than to give you that visa you're looking for. So stay tuned. So good day, existing and new subscribers. Welcome to DreamDesk Education. As usual, we are always expecting you to show up here because for you to study in Russia, you need enough information that would make the process smooth for you, and that is what we're all about. Our job is to make sure the process is smooth for you, have all the information you need, and that you successfully get to study in Russia. So here are the questions you most likely be asked when you're going for a visa interview to study in Russia. But before that, I'd like to inform you that there are still pro tips for you on how, other than the questions, how you can prepare physically in order to create a very good lasting impression that will secure visa for you. So make sure you watch to the very end. The first question you most likely to be asked, apart from what's your name and how old are you and other personal details that you yourself know, the first question you'd be asked is, what's the name of your school? If you're going to study in Russia, Russian schools have some kind of like pronunciations, but it's something that if you used your Google or made your research, you'd be able to learn. So it's important that you know the name of your school and you know how to pronounce it. Some Russian words, if you do not listen, you will not be able to know how to pronounce them. So it's important you do your research first of all before anything. Then you'd be asked, who is inviting you to Russia? Obviously, since you're on a student visa, it is your school that is inviting you, the school that you were admitted to that's invited. So that's a simple answer. You don't have to dabble on that. That is a simple answer. Then you will be asked, what's your course of study? Do you know your course of study? You're supposed to know your course of study. So since you know your course of study, you answer that. And in knowing your course of study, it's important you know certain questions in between, like maybe you're going for engineering and they ask you what is a machine, civil engineering, or you're going for mechanical engineering, they ask you what is a machine, or you're going for economics, they ask you define money, or they ask you as a medical student, as an aspiring medical student, how many kilograms is the liver. So just like random facts, general knowledge. Nobody is gonna move deeper actually, but then there are some things you're actually supposed to know regarding your course. So they would be able to assess your knowledge and your readiness to study in Russia, as Russia has a very good standard of education, a high standard of education, and so it's something they prioritize. Education is something they prioritize. So you have to be ready, you have to be knowledgeable to be admitted or to be allowed to study in Russia. So in relation to your course, you would also be asked something like, what is the duration of your course? This is something you have to know. It's not an information that can be sourced. You understand? It's not like something you can source. So obviously, if you're getting admitted to study a particular course, you would have already known, like the duration of the course. So when you're asked what's the duration of your course, be ready to answer that. Have that in mind. Likewise, you may also be asked, who is going to finance your education? In this case, if you're a scholarship student, you just say, I'm a scholarship student, and obviously it will be indicated in your invitation letter or your visa support that the school is going to provide you that you're a scholarship student. Then if you're going to be funding yourself, it will also be indicated. If you have a visa support from the school, then it will be indicated that you don't need to, that's a document you may have to present. Like when you say, okay, I'm going to fund myself, and then where's your visa support from the school? Show them. Or they may need proof of funds. That's why I say it is safe to go about with your proof of funds. it's not something that is asked recently. It's not something they ask, but then it is also safe to go with it. So if you can just prepare your proof of funds, go with it, so that if you're asked who is going to fund your education, then you'll be like, I'm the one that's going to fund my education, or my mother is going to fund my education, my dad's going to fund my education, or I'm a scholarship student. You have proof for it. And the next question you will most likely be asked is, do you plan to study or work in Russia? To be very honest, this is one of the questions people fail at, because they feel like, oh, okay, well, I want to work because I want to earn. And that is absolutely okay. But then when you're going for an interview, when you're asked, since you're on a student visa is something that you're supposed to use to go study for the sole purpose of studying. If it was maybe like work visa, beautiful. You can say, I'm working, and that's it. But then this is a student visa. When you're asked, are you working or studying? I am going to study is the answer. My main purpose of going to Russia is to study. I hope we understand this, because people fail at this particular question. I hope we understand that. They can go further to ask you after that, okay, since you're going to study in Russia, after studying, do you plan to stay back and work, or, maybe settle in Russia? The answer to this question is, I plan on going back to my country to implement the knowledge I have accumulated based on this area of specialization, or based on this course that I've studied in my home country. So if you're from Algeria, I plan to use the knowledge I have accumulated on this area to better my country, to implement it in my country, Algeria, to move things forward. If you're from Nigeria, Ghana, Zambia, likewise, you do not plan to stay in Russia. You plan to go back to your country. That is the answer. You may be asked, what inspired you to choose this university? What inspired? What moved you? What do you find special? Let me just say, to choose Russia or to choose this university in particular, then you have to do a background research on your own. Why do you like Russia? You can say, for the university, based on their track record in this specific course, I want to experience that level of standard of education and be able to implement it in my home country after studies. I want to experience Russian culture. Things that are pleasing to you about this particular place. It has to be personal, regardless of the fact that there's a template, but it has to be personal on some level. It has to be something that relates to you. In order to make it more convincing, in order to make it more authentic, you have to do your research. So there are some other questions like, are you going to Russia with your original documents? Do you have your original documents? You say, yes, of course, I have my original documents, because I would need them. I would most likely need them there. Are you going to Russia with your fees? If you're going to Russia with your fees, just say that. If you've already paid, just say that. If you have paid part of it and it's remaining, it's you're left with another part, just say that. It's not a deep question. You can also be asked, where is your university located? You must know where your university is located. The address, every place in Russia has a specific address, so you must know. Just when you make your research, you'll be able to find out. You can be asked, okay, do you want to continue your studies after, maybe like go on to masters, go on to PhD? Make your intentions clear. Do you want to do that? Do you want, after your BSc, maybe you're going for BSc, do you want to go for masters? Do you want to go for PhD? It's all up to you. So just make your intentions clear. Another question you could ask regarding your city would be something in the direction of, how would you get to your city? For example, my city, when you get to Moscow, then you take a train down to my city. So that's how I would say that. For me personally, I would say, when I get to Moscow, I'll take a taxi to the train station, and then when I get to the train station, I'll take a train to my city. And after that, you'd most likely be asked, do you have anyone that would take you from the train station or from the airport, if applicable? If you do have someone that would pick you up, someone personal, like maybe a friend, you say, yes, I'd actually have someone who would pick me up, or something like in the light of the school will send someone who would pick me up if the school would, or I have a relative who would pick me up, or I have a friend by so name who would pick me up. Just be honest about your questions, about your answers, and be authentic about it. That is all that is in there. Once you're authentic about it, it will be convincing. It will not be like you're trying to lie. You wouldn't be raising any suspicions. But don't think they're gonna ask you all these questions at the same time. It's not one person who will take all these questions, obviously. It's just these are almost all the questions you will most likely encounter. So you have to prepare for any of them. You don't have to be scared about anything. All the pro tips I promised at the end of the video, the pro tips are: you have to wear confidence like your breastplate. How is that? When you're going there, the mindset you have to have is these people they just want to know me. They want to understand me. They want to understand my motive. Why am I going to do that? It's just like you sitting across a table with someone and then the person is asking you questions. The only difference is the setting. But now when you put this setting into your head, it begins to disarrange you, it begins to confuse you, it begins to make you nervous. And don't worry, being nervous is okay. But are you able to handle your nerves? Are you able to handle the anxiety? And this is how you can handle it by assuming, or not assuming, by understanding that these people just want to know you. You're going to study just like every other person, just like me, just like some people, every other person that's been here. So you just want to understand where you're going, whether you know where you're going. So you ought to know where you're going, ought to know what you're going there to do. That's number one. That will give you a lot of confidence. Understand that they don't want to not give you the visa. They just want to understand that you understand where you're going and what you're going to do. That's number one. Number two is the way you present yourself. Whether you like it or not, the way you look is people do not even have to do it intentionally. It just happens. That is how they look at you. The way you look is the way people look at you. You can't present yourself as someone that do not have his or herself together and expect them to see you as someone that has his or herself together. It doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. So when you present yourself as someone that is confident, as someone that know where they're going and know what they're going to do, as someone that is in control of what they're doing, then when they're asking you a question, there's an already established mindset right there that this person, they actually know what they're doing. They look put together. They look calm and collected. They look like they have things under control. So your confidence and the way you dress. And when I say not only the way you dress, like physical appearance. And when I say physical appearance, it entails the way you dress, the way you smell, your mannerism, how comported you are. Those two are the pro tips I promise. And if you actually employ these pro tips in conjunction with knowing the answers to the questions, or in conjunction with the knowledge you have acquired based on questions and answers, then what do we have to do? Just relax. And when it's time for your interview, you go for your interview and you're going to smash it. I'm very sure. So thank you very much for staying up to this point. I'm sure you got value from it. I hope you employ this value you got from it. And I would really be waiting for you to come back to say, I got that visa. Since this was useful to you, why don't you subscribe, share, like, and comment, and let the algorithm move this to people that also need this content. Thank you very much for watching once again, and as usual, see you at DreamDesk. Bye.